Welcome to my show. Of course, we are only audio, no video of Leo Zagami, but you can follow me still on YouTube and Facebook with the videos of course, of what we're talking about, if available. And the reason why I'm not appearing on the screen is because I've been affected by some health issues regarding my tooth, and a case of a dental paresthesia that unfortunately has paralyzed part of my face. So here we go with another way, a more radiophonic way, also because we are broadcasting on the radio. At the moment, this show is being broadcast on Aftermath FM and also on the Global Enlightenment Radio Network. So welcome to everybody worldwide listening to the Leo Zagami show, which is, of course, more radiophonic than ever. And we have a lot of news on the table, a lot of news. Of course, we will be talking about the topic of the moment, Afghanistan, but we will be talking also about China, because behind Afghanistan, there has been the fall of many empires. Who's next? China? I don't think so. I think maybe the Chinese are a little bit more clever. I think the way they're going to enter Afghanistan is through corruption, and the Taliban are very well known for being kind of easy to convince, let's say, even if the Afghani army and even the Afghani government that preceded them was even worse. I mean, the level of corruption that the Afghani people had to suffer has always been really very high. So welcome to the Leo Zagami Show, Tuesday, the 17th of August of the year of the Lord 2021. And the first thing we're going to be focusing on is actually the way the spokesperson for the Taliban has focused on the topic of free speech. I mean, it seems like the Taliban are now willing to sell to the world a more moderate version of themselves, but also a more cynical. When they were asked about the actual censorship, the freedom of speech, well, I guess that here in the West we don't have that much of a freedom of speech, and the people in Kabul, the Taliban, apparently know it very well. So when the Taliban spokesman was asked about freedom of speech, to go and ask Facebook. This question should be asked to them, because this is unfortunately the problem we have here in the West. We have been subject to the demoralization of our troops that have been basically sold one war after the other based on lies. Our troops now have to be fed with all this rubbish regarding critical race theory, being awake, woke, whatever that means, and it's all about accepting the transgenderism within the army and all this rubbish. With this kind of mentality, you can't expect the most powerful, what used to be the most powerful army in the world, to win anything, because this is where we are heading. We are heading towards a clash of civilizations, and at the moment our civilization is being castrated by the libtards, by the left wing that has basically hijacked the United States of America, and their incompetence at the military level is obviously very clear to everybody. But let's see first, and of course for those who are listening, you can listen to this Taliban spokesman who basically comes out with this reply, which means also that the Taliban are very up to date with whatever is going on here in the West. These are not the Taliban of the pre-digital era, who were only living in the middle of nowhere with no contact in the outside world. These are the Taliban who basically have been in prison for years in Guantanamo Bay, some of their leaders. Some of the actual head of these Taliban himself has been subject to imprisonment for years in Pakistan, but in the meantime, the world has evolved, and they have followed this evolution. So we find ourselves also fighting against a very different enemy. So let's see what the Taliban spokesperson said, surprisingly, to the Western media, who was trying to be clever when asking the Taliban about freedom of speech, and he replies, "So what about Facebook then?" This is what happened.
دا سوال خو باید د فیسبوک له ادارې سره وي د بیان د ازادۍ دعوت دوی کوي او دلته خلک د بیان د ازادۍ.
This question should be asked to those people who are claiming to be promoters of freedom of speech, who do not allow publication of all information. I can ask Facebook company. This question should be asked to them.
Wow. I mean, this kind of spokesperson seems to be even more clever than what we have at the White House at the moment, which is Jen Psaki, who herself didn't really know what to say regarding the present situation, and came out, of course, accusing everybody else but Joe Biden. But the truth, as we all know, is that, yes, there was a deal struck between the previous president, Donald J. Trump, is to make sure that no Americans will be hurt in the process of dismantling the whole show over there, knowing already that the Afghani army will not do anything because they're a bunch of corrupt individuals that have not protected anybody, including their own women. So, first of all, why should we go there and protect their own women if their own men can't protect them? Question. Now, before we go into the identity of Mullah Abdul Ghani Baradar, the new leader of Afghanistan, and before we go into this new phase of the Taliban, we need to remember what Biden also has mentioned during his speech yesterday regarding the fact that, of course, Afghanistan is the graveyard of all empires. The Brits ended up very badly in Afghanistan. The Soviet Union had to flee Afghanistan in something of a tragedy for the whole nation, that soon after that started the glasnost and the collapse of the whole system, because basically it was a war that was very, very heavy on the Russian people. And then after that, the Taliban and Al-Qaeda, who had been the enemies of the Russians, financed by the United States of America, became the enemy of the United States of America. The United States of America poured for 20 years billions into forming an army. An army of what? There is a bunch of tribes, there's a bunch of tribes there. They don't get on with each other. I don't know how the Taliban managed to get them all together, but you can't do it in a democratic way. So just like in Iraq, the democratic, between brackets, democracy is something of an illusion even here in the West. So democracy, just like in Iraq, is impossible in Afghanistan. So why bother? Who made these intelligence assessments about the future of Afghanistan is an idiot. The Central Intelligence Agency are a bunch of fools. Today, the Central Intelligence Agency is more worried about the sexuality of their archivist in Langley than the actual intelligence gathering. So this is, unfortunately, what happens when you leave basically the most powerful army in the world in the hands of fools, the most powerful intelligence gathering of the world in the hands of fools. This is what happens. It's very sad, but this is the truth. So, welcome everybody. This is Leo Zagami with the Leo Zagami Show. I apologize if I'm not with you visually. For those who are tuned in Facebook or on YouTube, I will now put up an image of myself, so at least you can get an image of Leo Zagami to cheer you up. I am unfortunately suffering a health issue that doesn't permit me to be with you full on. I hope it's gonna be sorted out, but we don't know, because dental paresthesia is something that can last 2 weeks, 2 months. We don't really know. Even my doctor doesn't know. And so we just have to pray and hope that my health gets back and I will be the Leo Zagami I used to be. And so it's also very annoying, this kind of sickness, because basically during a dental procedure your nerve gets damaged, and then you don't know for how long this damage will. I mean, it might last, I hope not all my life, or not a long period of time. It could be sorted out in 2 or 3, 4 weeks. So it's just a little bit of a mystery. It kind of like I'm gonna have to do a lot of exercise to get used to it, because you basically have no sensibility on the lower part. I don't have any sensibility on the lower part, on the left lower part of my lip. I don't have any sensibility on the chin and also on the tooth. So sorry if when I talk sometimes it's like I try to get used to it, also because you tend to maybe bite your lip or things like that. I mean, it's a little bit it gives you a little bit of the feeling of what it's like to be an invalid, and it's not a great feeling, I tell you. So please pray for me, and let's continue with the Leo Zagami Show. So we were talking, and we showed, of course, the spokesperson of the Taliban answering in a rather clever way to the libtards of the mainstream media. I mean, it's time to be honest about what we've been selling abroad, as the image of the United States is going to hell because of the libtards in this country who have taken over the mainstream media and are selling an image of this country which is completely antithetic to how it used to be. We are no longer a strong country. We are a country with a guy who should be in a rest home, a guy who is old, who is deranged, who is cognitively speaking sick, in charge of the White House. We have a spokesperson who makes really, I mean, some people, I don't know who, said that she's the best spokesperson ever. I don't think that Jen Psaki, who just came back she was called from her holiday to come back with great urgency. It's really somebody who can save the image of Joe Biden, because it just adds to the foolishness of this entire group of people that we're gonna now analyze one by one. Let's start with Jen Psaki. Let's start with what she said.
Just to follow up on this, obviously getting them through and getting them to the airport is the challenge, as everyone else here has noted, but the administration's left to negotiate.
Yes, because the problem is here, we have 80,000 Americans apparently, or I don't know the exact number, but we have really a lot of Americans still stuck around Afghanistan with no possibility of going to the airport. Even people who are in Kabul have difficulty in getting to Kabul airport. So imagine the people who live in the rest of Afghanistan going through the checkpoints of the Taliban. So the question is, have you sorted out some kind of idea of how we should save these guys?
With the Taliban, including one of the commandos who was released from Guantanamo Bay as part of the Bo Bergdahl prisoner swap when President Biden was vice president. How does he feel about that? Does he have any regrets, and how's he digesting that?
Well, first I would note that, one, I'd point you to the Department of the intelligence community to assess the identity of the individual. I know there's been reporting on it, but that's not my position to do from here. I would also note that in prior negotiations and commitments made during the Trump administration, there were thousands of individuals who were released. So our focus right now is on, again, not taking the Taliban's word for it. We are assessing, we are closely watching, and we are being very clear about the capacities and the capabilities we have at hand should they be needed. Of course, that's not our objective.
Oh. So that's Jen Psaki, who doesn't really know what she's talking about most of the time. Most of these Taliban individuals were released, by the way, by the Obama administration. The key ones, the ones that are now in charge of the whole show, were released because, of course, Barack Obama had to give, in exchange of an individual who was freed, who apparently was himself a traitor, who was not even a member of the American military in good standing, and they gave the Taliban something like $5 billion. I mean, that is how you finance terrorism, paying these huge ransoms. Welcome, everybody. 17 minutes past the hour. This is the Leo Zagami Show, coming to you directly from Palm Springs, California. And now let's go to the general in charge here. We have all these generals, you know, and they are tough guys. They're tough guys. Let's see how tough is this guy. And he, of course, is going to say everything is under control, probably. Then we're going to go to the National Security Advisor. Then we're going to go to somebody else. And they all a bunch of incompetent libtard, the fools. These people shouldn't be heading anything. These people shouldn't be officers of anything. Okay, so let's go and listen to U.S. Major General Taylor. And let's see what he says about what's going on in Kabul in the last few days. So we have an idea of what Biden's military have in mind. Here we go.
The speed of evacuation will pick up. Right now, we're looking at 1 aircraft per hour in and out of HKIA. We predict that our best effort could look like 5,000 to 9,000 passengers departing per day. But we are mindful that a number of factors influence this effort, and circumstances could change. We will keep you updated. There are a number of unexpected challenges that can occur for personnel in a complex and dynamic security environment. We are confident we have taken the right steps to resume safe and orderly operations.
Okay, you want to resume safe and orderly operations at the Pentagon. But you need to tell me, how are the Americans living across Afghanistan gonna get to Kabul, and from Kabul they're going to get to your Kabul airport? What are you gonna do for them? How are you gonna do it? No, because I'm asking for a friend.
At the airport. We have had no hostile interactions, no attack, and no threat by the Taliban.
Okay, yes, you have to remember, though, that there is a threat given by the Taliban themselves now with the deadline. The deadline is the 11th of September, and they are saying now to the U.S. military, either all of you are out by the 11th of September, otherwise we are going to give you help. That is what the Taliban have been saying in the last communication statement, which is a threat, of course. I mean, the 11th of September, very symbolic. It was supposed to be the end of this bad adventure in Afghanistan, and now it might really become a catastrophe.
We remain vigilant. We also have not experienced any additional security incidents at HKIA.
And can you say, just from an operational perspective, is there talk of expanding the perimeter around the airport?
Right now, the airfield, like I said earlier, is secure, and the commander on the ground has the ability to continue to flow flights in and out. So I would say the airfield's secure right now to allow us to do that mission.
Okay, so the mission. Yes, the mission might be the right one, but are you going to achieve it? And what's happening with all the weapons that you have left around? There is actually billions of weapons left around by the United States Army now in the hands of the Taliban. And I don't think so. I don't think that the Taliban are going to go there and bring them all to you at the airport. So please bring them with you. No, the Taliban are already playing with their new toys. For those who are viewing us, I want to show you what that means. An helicopter was taken on a ride. Here we have the classic Taliban with his motorcycle next to an helicopter. Now people would say, okay, that helicopter can't fly or has nobody capable of flying it. You think so? Well, now I'm going to show you the Taliban flying the helicopter. They must have put they must have fixed this Air Force Mi-35 Hind attack helicopter in some way, and they went for a ride. It was like seeing a bunch of kids having fun with their latest toy. And this is quite shocking. It's happening while we talk. So the Taliban, it's now having fun with their new toy. They are going around in helicopters with weapons. And their weapons now, they're not, because they've been, of course, fighting for 20 years with the leftovers of the Russian army. So it was, of course, Kalashnikov, AK-47, the original ones made by the Russians. They're very good, they're made in a very good way because it was a Russian patent originally. But now they're changing, swapping their old AK-47s for new American-made ones, for new American-made machine guns. And this, of course, for the joy of all the Taliban. Let's go and see the Taliban here in action on the helicopter. So here they are, you know, they're kind of like a little bit primitive in their approach. They go around with pajamas and all the AK-47s, but now they actually hang out with American military helicopters, and they actually have even some airplanes available, and they have the pilots to fly them because all those pilots trained by the US are now working for the Taliban. So they have gotten their hands on a lot of stuff. And they're basically in charge of a whole country now. And what is the US doing about it? What is Joe Biden and the mighty force of the United States doing about it? Well, let's see what happens And let's see what happens with the words of a representative of Joe Biden's government. Because these weapons, what's going to happen with them? The question was made to one of these spokes from Joe Biden's improbable government. I think that we are laughing to a bunch of people wearing pajamas in front of us, but the guy can't even wipe his own butt in the White House. So let's try to also understand that. Here is a representative of the White House for your latest Afghanistan updates. So where are these weapons? Are they going to give them back to the United States?
What happens to the billions of dollars worth of weaponry that the U.S. gave Afghanistan? Does the U.S. have a plan for that, or does it remain in the Taliban hands?
We don't have a complete picture, obviously, of where every article of defense materials has gone, but certainly a fair amount of it has fallen into the hands of the Taliban. And obviously, we don't have a sense that they are going to readily hand it over to us at the airport. Yes.
Ooh, so you have a sense that they're not gonna. Wow, this guy is clever, huh? Who is this guy? Yeah. It's called Jake Sullivan. He's a national security advisor of the United States of America. I'm afraid, my friends, that unfortunately incompetence in this day and age is not gonna bring you any results. So when we went into Afghanistan 20 years ago, we had an objective, taking out Osama bin Laden. In the end, Osama bin Laden was taken out, but he wasn't even in Afghanistan. He was actually in Pakistan. So what happened after he was taken out on that 2nd of May, 2011, for some, it was the 1st of May. It's a kind of a rather symbolic date when the operation started, because 1st of May 1776 is the foundation of the Illuminati. Osama bin Laden was probably already dead. They probably took him out of a freezer, and Obama played with this game of showing to the world that he had defeated finally the boogeyman. At that point, he should have just retired from Afghanistan altogether, because that will make actually some sense. No, he stayed. He stayed for the joy of the military-industrial complex for another 10 years. They stayed. The United States and the military-industrial complex is now very happy. A lot of weapons have been sold, and they now can be passed on to the Taliban. On a positive note, we now know that you can defeat the whole military-industrial complex if you wear pajamas, you have an old rusty AK-47, and also an old rusty motorbike. You go to Washington, D.C., and that's it. You maybe wear a turban on your head, and at that point, they're going to get really scared. So this gives us an idea, at least, that here, if the patriots of the United States of America had the balls to actually move forward, they could reclaim this great nation and protect its great constitution instead of being defeated by a bunch of libtards who don't even know how to wipe their butt. So the future of the military is not about worrying about transgenderism or about the fact if that soldier is or not an homosexual. We don't care what's the color of your skin, your sexuality. When you are fighting an enemy, you have to be fierce. And this is what is missing at the moment, unfortunately. And this is what might lead this country to a very bad place. China understands all this. China understands all this, knows what's happening and wants to take advantage of the great mineral resources present in Afghanistan. But China is not going to bring in their army in Afghanistan. I repeat, China is more clever than that. China is simply going to corrupt the whole show. But we're going to face them military. Why? Because at this point, the next big conflict here is not Afghanistan, which is lost. We should have at least left the presence of a few thousand soldiers, so what we're seeing today would have never happened, but it's now too late for all that. The next theater of operations for the New World Order is Taiwan. Yes, Taiwan. And the problem is a bigger problem that you can imagine, because what's happening with the Chinese is that they are preparing to invade Taiwan, knowing very well that the incompetence showed by the military-industrial complex of the United States of America means that even if there is 30,000 American troops in Taiwan, something that was revealed just a few hours ago, a senior U.S. senator, also a member of the U.S. Senate Select Committee on Intelligence, on his social media, revealed for the first time that the U.S. has 30,000 soldiers stationed in China's Taiwan Island. You know what that means? That means a declaration of war to China. And China is not an army that is discussing transgenderism, or if they're woke and if they have problems with the critical race theory. They are forming the most fierce, ruthless, godless army in the world. So, John Cornyn, Senator John Cornyn, said that there is US troops stationed in South Korea, Japan, but also in Taiwan. And now that the Chinese have seen this from a senator of the United States of America, they're gonna act accordingly. They have a 3 stages plan to take over Taiwan. And once they take over Taiwan, it's inevitable that the Third World War will start, because we have 30,000 troops stationed there. At that point, the incompetence of Joe Biden can no longer be tolerated. So either he's removed, but then what is the next stage? Kamala Harris? So you can understand the situation is very tense. China always opposed any US military personnel involvement in Taiwan affairs or US soldiers setting foot on the island. The fact that now it's been revealed that we have 30,000 US soldiers on the island is already by itself a declaration of war for the Chinese. Some observers have already said that if it's true, it's tantamount to a military invasion and occupation of China's Taiwan. And in an act of declaring war of China, we, at the moment, will probably not get that much support from our allies, who have just viewed the incompetence of Joe Biden's administration in action in Afghanistan. So, this is the Leo Zagami Show. We need to unite, wear a bunch of pajamas, and have a pajama party in Washington, D.C., of course with AK-47s, to reclaim the U.S. Constitution and our country. So I hope but you understand the difficulty that real patriots, Americans, have in this moment of time when they see their country taken over by a bunch of fools who are ruining not only 20 years of a useless occupation of Afghanistan, but ruining the name of the US military. We have left in Afghanistan people who deserve better, people who help the US military, people like this guy I'm showing you now. Listen to his testimony. This guy helped the Americans, and now he feels betrayed, left alone in Kabul, possibly to be killed in the next few hours by the Taliban.
Well, I'm all alone here. It's just me here in the United States, but my family, my mom, my brother, my 5 sisters, everybody is there.
So, okay, I got it wrong. He's in the United States, but all his family is in Afghanistan.
It's just me here for now, and that hurts. That hurts seeing the country fall, and you can't do anything. You just literally can't do anything at all.
So after working for the American government in Kabul, Mohammed came to the US on a special immigrant visa in 2018. Do you know how many visa requests that there is at the moment by...
Since my entire family is back in home.
Yeah, the people like him asking for his family. There is 80,000 requests already. There is the possibility now of a massive influx of these refugees. These are real refugees, though. We need to understand the difference. People like this gentleman here talking is very different from some Central American crook, Mexican or whatever that is an economic migrant hoping to make their fortune here in the United States. Here we are talking about real refugees. It's a very different thing. And so we need to take the responsibility for having created this situation.
When the Taliban took over the city, I don't feel safe having my face or name on the cover of the news or anything, because they are my family and they are my priority. I don't want to put them in any kind of risk. I was born in Kabul, was raised in Kabul. Friends, family, everybody they were happy because everything was changing back, starting from 2001. It's not like a war zone anymore. It was looking like a proper city. We had restaurants, we had democracy implementing there. My mom was allowed to walk in the streets without no burqa and anything. She was not forced to wear burqa anymore. Now everything just changed in a couple of days. It's different. I was awake. It was 5 a.m. here when everything happened. I was awake and I was on Twitter, and I heard that Ghani left the city. It was heartbreaking, and I started crying all in a sudden, and I still get goosebumps remembering that. It's sad. It's sad when the whole country stands by their president, and the president leaves. It's sad. It's heartbreaking, and I don't have a word to describe how I felt at that moment. I asked them to stay in the house, locked down, do not get out of the house for a few weeks. Let's see what happens, since the airport is closed and there is no way for them to get out either. It's sad, and it's going to be very heartbreaking for all of them, especially for my sister, since I work personally with all of them to get educated, to do something for their lives. My sister is a beauty parlor. She's a makeup artist. Another one is a teacher. The next one is a nurse. And they all called me, and they're all scared. They don't know what's going to happen to them. That's the problem. They don't know what they're facing. They don't know if they go to work tomorrow, what's going to happen to them. It's hard. It's really hard. Seeing your flag on the ground and seeing some terrorist group putting up their flag hurts, makes your heart bleed. I don't know how to describe my feelings at this point, but when you work for a country for so long, when you work for a place, for your goals, you have dreams for that place, the terrorist group takes it away in a matter of days. It hurts, because all these years you worked for that place, all these years you had hope for that place. It's a big betrayal by our president and the U.S. government and all these deals that they made. They left us alone at that very critical point. We needed them, and the world was not there, and the United States was not there.
The exit from Afghanistan should have been planned in a completely different way. And of course, that was the way that Donald J. Trump had in mind when he himself started this process, that unfortunately now was continued in the most improbable way by Joe Biden, who likes, of course, to blame Trump, his predecessor, likes to blame everybody else. Now he seems to have taken the responsibility in his hands. The responsibility is all his, but not only, he said. There is other countries that have also some responsibility. Well, let's go and check another of these important figures from the State Department and one of their statements that makes us understand more about the great professionals at work in Joe Biden's army of fools. This guy is really the most foolish of fools. I mean.
Additionally, the UN Security Council issued a joint press statement earlier today calling for a new government that is united, inclusive, and representative, including with the full and meaningful participation of women. The Council spoke with one voice to underscore that Afghanistan must abide by its international obligations, including to international humanitarian law, and ensure the safety and security of all Afghans and international citizens.
Wow. Now I already see the Taliban shaking in their pajamas. Wow. Who is this fool? Who's going to listen to these people? Why is he suddenly coming out with all these different voices, one more idiotic than the other? I mean, they seem to be all a bunch of incompetent people. I'm pretty shocked about all of them, but let's go and check out also another statement, foolish statement by advisor Jake Sullivan, just so we understand who is working for Joe Biden. His great minds at work.
Okay, two questions for you. One, has the president spoken to any other world leaders since Kabul fell to the Taliban?
Sorry, I was looking at the wrong person. He has not yet spoken with any other world leaders.
So he has not spoken with any of the world leaders. Wow, that's great. So Joe Biden it's kind of like a loose cannon at the moment, but he has some very serious people working for him. So we shouldn't get some people like this guy here. So we shouldn't get worried about the situation. We shouldn't.
To begin flowing those forces in. And then as we watch the situation unfold over the course of the coming days, we determined that we would go from step one of that contingency plan, which was about 3,000 troops, to step two of that contingency plan, which was about 6,000 troops.
Why did he leave the White House? On Thursday he knew. Why did he leave the White House on Friday?
The president worked throughout the entire weekend.
Whoa, he worked for the entire weekend. I think I need an ice cream. Maybe I need 2 ice creams. Maybe I need 3 ice creams. He had a weekend full of ice creams. Camp David on his own in front of the screens. That photo is always going to be in the mind of all Americans. During the crisis, here we have a man on his own, watching all these screens. He's a guy of great experience, the guy who should have saved us. Because this is not the Bay of Pigs of John Fitzgerald Kennedy, who was a young politician. This is the Saigon of a guy who apparently has been in politics since the dawn of humankind. I mean, since the early 70s. He was actually, Joe Biden was in charge already, was already in politics and in Washington during the fall of Saigon. So You have to understand, I mean, Joe Biden is a man of great experience. But where is this experience?
Intimately familiar with his working habits over the course of the weekend, because I was on the phone with him constantly. Secretary Austin was on the phone with him, Chairman Milley, Secretary Blinken, the team in country.
Yeah, what kind of the taste of ice? I mean, you know, I like chocolate and vanilla today. I like my chocolate in a certain way. I like it from coconut milk, not ordinary milk. But yes, Joe, we share a passion for ice creams.
So he was monitoring developments hour by hour throughout that entire time and has been making a series of decisions about troop deployments, giving us direction and guidance about how to take the shape of this mission and make sure that we're executing it. And at every turn, asking our military, who is leading this mission and executing this mission with bravery and valor, what do you need? I will get you anything you need. He asked that question multiple times every single day. So President Biden has been deeply engaged in this. Yes.
Sorry, there's a lot of anger in Australia this morning about...
A lot of anger in Australia this morning. There's a lot of anger around the world about the incompetence of Joe Biden, who is actually being criticized even by his own lip-tarded media, who can't cover up for a guy who needs to be impeached and removed. So, we need to remove Joe Biden, but in the meantime, we need to listen to this pathetic show of incompetent fools who are risking the lives of 80,000 Americans still in Afghanistan, or at least 60,000. And in the midst of this chaos, there is also some Jesuits who are trying to get back to India from the Jesuit province in India. They might get out of Afghanistan. They're trying to do it in a way. The Jesuits, who themselves are partly responsible for this whole catastrophe, they are now afraid because, of course, the Taliban are gonna go and hunt them down. They don't care about the Jesuits. They don't care who are the Jesuits. However, there is some Jesuits who are not being hunted down. Those Jesuits are the ones who collaborate with the Taliban. So here we go with the famous phone call of Pope Francis. I talked about it in an article. I never really showed you a clip of it. But Pope Francis stopped his Wednesday talk to take a phone call. Watch the scene. For those who want to know more about this event, you can go on www.leozagami.com. Those who are watching me on Facebook, on YouTube, you can see basically the Pope answering this urgent phone call, interrupting this important weekly event, which is the meeting of the faithful with the Pope. Why did he interrupt this event? Well, guys, in a moment of crisis, remember, the Vatican is always behind the scenes. So, just keep that in mind. For those who want to support the Leo Zagami show, please do it through the purchase of our books. You can find them linked at leozagami.com, where you can find also all my latest articles. And on top of that, you can also help us out with a donation. Now, how you can donate? Well, we have all the details, of course, on Facebook and YouTube. But for those who are listening to us on Aftermath FM or on the Global Enlightenment Radio Network without having access to the visual part of our show, I would say that the best way possible to deliver us a donation is through PayPal, paypal.com/paypalme/Leo Zagami Show. And we have also a family that we like to give. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to find it right now, but I'm gonna find it sooner or later. I should get it ready for our radio listeners, especially now that this show has been restricted only to a kind of hybrid version, more radiophonic, because of my health issues. I ended up, unfortunately, with a paresthesia, dental paresthesia, bad dentistry, got part of my face screwed up at the moment, and so I have a little bit of problems, but hopefully it's going to be only a temporary thing. And now let's move forward with more news regarding China, because China is not only preparing for the invasion of Taiwan now that they see the mess in Afghanistan. They want to take advantage, because an enemy takes advantage of your mess. If you create a mess, a catastrophe like the one we are all witnessing in Afghanistan, the enemy simply says, oh, okay, great, I'm going to go and invade Taiwan. They're never going to do anything. They're a bunch of incompetent fools. And now that this senator has confirmed there is 30,000 troops in Taiwan, well, that's basically a declaration of war for China. So expect an invasion of by China of Taiwan very, very soon. China, though, aims also to use space energy, space-based solar energy, to harvest the sun rays to help meet power needs. Instead of having all these eolic power things that we see here in Palm Springs, I have a big eolic park with this taking advantage, of course, of the wind or the solar panels. No, they want to do something else. They have announced basically they're going to harvest the energy of the sun on a solar space station and send it back to Earth. It's very technological, also very scary to see how powerful are the Chinese at the moment. If they want to enter Afghanistan, they don't want to enter it, they want to enter it simply because they need the mineral resources they are in Afghanistan. That, by the way, have always been there, and I don't know why the Americans have never taken advantage of it. China aims to have a 1 megawatt solar energy station in space by 2030, according to a government plan. So the Chinese are technological, the Chinese are also ruthless, and apparently the latest news that comes from the Associated Press is pretty shocking. The Chinese apparently have a secret jail in Dubai. In Dubai, yes, they apparently hold those Chinese who are members of that minority, the Uyghurs, the ones who are Muslims. They send them to this detention facility that is in Dubai. So a testimony given by this detainee is pretty shocking, because it means that Dubai has some kind of deal with China we didn't know anything about. Wu Wan speaks during an interview in a safe house in Ukraine on Wednesday, June 30th, 2021. We claim that she was held for 8 days at the Chinese-run black site in Dubai, along with at least 2 Uyghurs, in what may be the first evidence that China is operating a secret detention facility beyond its borders. Incredible. Shocking. What is America doing about it? Nothing. The human rights of this Muslim minority have been, of course, under discussion for the last few years, especially because they are using this Islamic minority in a way that is also improper in detention facilities where they are in labor camps where they're forced to work for free. But the incredible thing is that they have this site now, sites like this that are quite common now in China, also in Dubai. So we should look more into these statements. The Dubai media says that they do not detain any foreign nationals without following internationally accepted procedures, blah, blah, blah. But black sites are clandestine jails where prisoners generally are not charged with a crime and have no legal recourse, with no bail or court order. So we want to know more about this. We would like to know more about this. Will we ever know more about this? Not if Joe Biden stays in the White House, that's for sure. And talking about this whole mess that we are seeing with the Taliban and of course reacquiring their control of Afghanistan, a statement was made by the infamous Skull and Bones president that started all this mess himself. President George W. Bush and Mrs. Bush made a statement on Afghanistan. Of course, they made this statement following the strict rules of hypocrisy of the neocons that got us into this mess in the first place. Quoting them, Laura and I, along with the team of the Bush Center, stand ready as Americans to lend us support and assistance in this time of need. Let us all resolve to be united in saving lives and praying for the people of Afghanistan. Wow. Wow. George W. Bush, a criminal, a real criminal, who got us in a useless, pathetic war that we should have never been involved in. And now, after 20 years, these are the results. These are the results. 3 minutes to the hour. We're about to end today's show, of course. But we couldn't end this show without talking about Australia, but also New Zealand, because New Zealand actually is closing the whole country for what? For one case. One case, suspected case, not even... they don't even know if it's the Delta coronavirus. They are suspecting it's the Delta coronavirus, and for that reason, they are closing down the whole country for one case. Incredible, huh? I mean, New Zealand wins the award of libtardness in the world. They are the most strict country ever. They are being more strict than Australia, that is already strict because they feel like Australia didn't act properly. That's why they're being so strict and libtarded. Wow. Let's go and check what this former DJ and Prime Minister of New Zealand said to the New Zealanders about locking up the whole country for one suspected case of the Delta virus.
We'll leave it there because we're getting the answers right now from the Prime Minister. Let's cross to that news conference now.
One case.
Good evening, everyone. As we advised earlier this afternoon, we have a positive case of COVID-19 in the community. We will not be in a position to identify if this is a case of the Delta variant of COVID-19 until genome sequencing is returned tomorrow. However, every case we have had in MIQ...
Well, guys, that's it. The Libtard Award goes to the New Zealanders. So, thank you very much for having tuned in today to this new world disorder of ours. By the way, yesterday we saw that Bob Dylan has been accused finally of being a pedophile. And Elon Musk is instead, where is he? He's in Florence, Yes, in Florence. Yes, in Florence. And watching with the mayor of Florence, an absolute libtard himself. Look at
Siamo qui con Elon Musk.
Visitate Firenze.
Great.
Visitate Firenze.
Siamo qui con Elon Musk.
Visitate Firenze.
Great. Siamo qui.
Yeah, whatever. Take care, guys. This was the Leo Zagami Show. Please donate, purchase our books, and follow us also on Thursday from 4 p.m. PST. And thank you for enjoying the ride.